Like one of this.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the October 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Environment and Parks Committee meeting. My name is Neil Barkley and I am the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez and Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty. This meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law now requires all community board members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you may have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there is time following the committee's decision, we will field questions from the public. And Ann Siegelman has volunteered to take minutes tonight. Thank you so much, Ann. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brian, can you please conduct the roll call?
Neil Barclay,
Present.
Martin Barrett. Martin Barrett. I'm not hearing anything, so I'll move on. Claire Brennan. Claire Brennan. I'm not hearing anything, so I'll move on. Paige Judge.
Here.
Anton Lawler.
Here.
Raj Nayak.
Present.
Reshma Patel.
Present.
Ann Selly.
Here.
Letty Simon.
Present.
Mark Thompson.
Present.
With 8 of 10 members present, we have a quorum.
All right. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand.
I don't have an objection, but I understand that there are actually a couple of additional items.
No, everything's in there. So,
It was Sandy,
well, that will be under number 2. So we'll go through it.
oh, okay.
Okay. All right, so no one objects. And so seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the June 6, 2023 meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no objections, the minutes from the June 6, 2023 meeting, which were done by Marty Barrett, not here, but thank you, Marty. Those minutes are adopted. They will soon be available on the CD6 website. All right, and I will go through the efficient meeting rules. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. Number 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. Number 2, committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Number 3, committee members unable to attend in person. If you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. Number 4, all committee members It is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. Number 5, the chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. And I think we can get to the agenda now, right? Let's go forward. First, I would just like to say good evening, and I am very excited to have everyone here. We have a fantastic agenda and lineup, and I am thrilled to see everyone. Starting off, we will have a presentation, and if I say it incorrectly, Mark is supposed to correct me. Higgins, Quaserberth and Partner.
Higgins Quaysburg.
Okay, Higgins, Quaserberth and Partners. They will have a presentation about construction to an existing second floor terrace at 80 Irving Place in the Gramercy Park Historic District. I would just like to add, because astute members of the public and as well as our astute member of the committee, and the question came up about why this historic district. And the reason is that we also cover landmarks. And so that's what we're talking about it. Historic District Gramercy has been designated as a landmark since 1966. And there's also that wonderful ice cream shop that was open, that in-house gastronome Mark Thompson told us about. But Aaron, it's all yours. You can take the floor.
Yeah. Let's see, I'm gonna share my screen. Help me, let's see. How's that? Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. Erin Ruley from Higgins, Quaysbarth and Partners. Thank you, Mark, for the pronunciation. So we're the preservation consultants on the project at 80 Irving Place, and I'm joined tonight by Martin Sosa of Archeologica. I think he's here. Martin is the project architect. And as you can see on the right, 80 Irving Place is a 4-story Italianate building, row house in the Gramercy Park Historic District. It's located on the northeast corner of 19th Street and Irving Place. And the scope of work includes a small rooftop addition with limited visibility and some modifications to an existing entry that's located on a visible secondary elevation that's on the east facade. And so we'll take a look at that. And all the work proposed today is is for the current owner. He has owned and occupied the building for 27 years. And so this is strictly a renovation for his own purposes. So there's no change in use or occupancy as part of this project. So here we see the Irving Place facade. This is on the left is a 1940s photograph. This is the tax photograph showing Irving Place. It's 2 bays wide on Irving and in the existing condition on the right. And then a few more overall views. So it's of course a corner building. So we have 2 primary facades, Irving Place, that 2-bay wide expanse, and then along East 19th Street, a much broader facade. And we see that sort of extending back to the east along East 19th Street. At the top of the building, it's crowned by a projecting cornice, and then you can see at the along East 19th Street we have 2 very prominent chimneys that extend up from the street wall at the primary facade. On the right is a view looking to the west from East 19th Street, and these were slightly later additions to the building. So the original volume of the building was expanded by at least 1 bay in the late 19th century. Early 20th century, that sort of 4-story section. You get this planar brick elevation here on the return, and then the setback 4-story portion of the building, and this single story at the base, which is currently the garage, and there's a projecting bay window. This was sort of developed incrementally over time in a series of additions, but that the opening that we're proposing to modify is situated back here. So sort of in the nook of the, or the crook of the facade where the two facades intersect adjacent to that bay window. Here, just to give you a sense of the volume of the addition, it's got quite a limited footprint, simple penthouse addition, a stair coming up with some amenity space on the interior, but really providing access to and support for the rooftop. And then at the bottom, we see this is that existing and proposed entry that provides access out to this terrace that exists at the rooftop of the current garage. And then in elevation, here we see the comparative elevations existing on the left, proposed on the right. At the rooftop currently, there is a system of pergolas and lattice work, and all of that is going to be removed as part of this proposal. So on the left, just starting at the top, in the existing condition, we have an existing elevator bulkhead that will remain. And there's a pergola that's closer to the west end of the elevation, the Irving Place elevation. There's another pergola system that occupies that full east wing of the building where all the setbacks occur. There's also an existing stair bulkhead that projects this canted roof line is the existing stair bulkhead, and that will go away as part of this. And that expresses itself over the 19th Street facade. So again, stripping back a lot of what exists currently and then allowing for this limited footprint of an addition that we see on the right. And here you can see maintaining that existing elevator bulkhead, the new brick clad addition. And there is a brise soleil, so a shading device that extends around the edge of the addition, so it shades the openings and provides some solar relief. And that is open work. We'll look at that in more detail, but that projects about 3 feet off of the face of both of the faces of the addition. And then similarly, here we see on the south elevation, the existing pergola. Behind the pergola, there is a lattice, a screening wall that separates 80 from the building to the north. And then at the east end of the building, we have that pergola system that extends all the way back here to the edge of the property, the existing elevator bulkhead, and again, those two very prominent chimneys that act as sort of a frontispiece to whatever's happening on the rooftop. Here in the proposed condition, new lattice work at the rear, that the pergolas all go away. There's this very simple brick volume of an addition, the existing elevator bulkhead and the brise soleil. There's existing mechanical setback, it's non-visible, and the mechanical will all be upgraded, but the mechanical location remains the same with some new screening device there that we see on the right. And then here this is the east elevation of the building. So at the second floor, we can see the existing entryway that leads to the terrace above the garage, and the new proposed entryway that we'll look at in more detail. Up at the rooftop, we can see in the existing condition that canted roof of the stair bulkhead and the pergola system and the existing mechanical elevator bulkhead. And then of course, here's the new addition, the penthouse with just this, the simple brise soleil and the chimneys out at the street wall. In the foreground, this is that mechanical enclosure. So you can see the setback from that front facade. And then here are just a couple of facade details of the the proposed addition. It will be executed in a red Roman brick. And as we start to look at the visibility, you'll understand that this helps it recede. There's a lot of exposed secondary and rear elevations in the context. So the red brick sort of really mutes the addition and helps it recede into the perspective. The brise soleil will be steel, with a blackened finish. Here's that existing elevator bulkhead, and then there are some ladders that provide FDNY access across the rooftop. At the bottom left is the view. This is the Irving Place facade, so here you can see the sort of the brick enclosure and the sliding glass doors. Those are also steel. One panel in each of these elevations. One panel is fixed and one is a slider. And then on the bottom right, we see the multi-light steel door that would be facing. This is the east elevation of the new penthouse addition. Oh, and just up at the top right, these are just sort of examples of that red Roman brick that we intend to use at the rooftop. Just a section across the roof, just to give you a sense. So Irving Place is over here. We have approximately 27 feet of setback from the front facade to the facade of the addition. It's a very limited footprint. And then that small mechanical enclosure to the east. Here's the comparative existing and proposed plans. So in the existing plan here, this is really very clear, where you see the existing pergola and the existing stair bulkhead. And then that system of pergola, it's a pergola and lattice sort of enclosure system that extends to the east, the existing mechanical equipment, and there's a hot tub, a whirlpool at the northeast corner of the building. And so that's all sort of enclosed in that current system. In the proposed condition, we open up that whole section in front behind the cornice, remove the stair bulkhead. There's the footprint of the addition that engages the existing elevator bulkhead, and then the mechanical area that exists today is repurposed for new mechanical systems. We have about a 7-foot setback from 19th Street to the facade of the penthouse, and but that is to the interior face of the chimney. So beyond that 7 feet, we have the full projection of the chimney and the cornice, which, as we'll see in the sight line in the visibility studies, really helps to disassociate the addition from the building. This is just the upper roof plan to show you sort of the big moves, the overall volume of the addition, mechanical enclosure, and then elevator bulkhead there. Details of the proposed new infill at the penthouse. So the sliding unit and the fixed unit for each of the new steel windows, and then that multi-light steel door at the east end. Jumping down to, maybe I'll reduce jumping down to the second floor. On the right is the view of the existing door at the second floor. So it's a solid panel door within a very deep recess. So it's a sort of planar brick, planar opening within the masonry, and then with a solid panel door set within that. And you can see a black outline around the perimeter of the door, and that's the proposed new opening as it would be expanded. And this is at the juncture of the two walls. So this is sort of the intersection of the north-south wall with the east-west wall at that setback four-story extension. And so on the left, we see the existing condition. The existing door, the opening is about 3 feet now, and the proposed is 4 feet. So we're expanding it a foot in width, and it's about 7 feet tall, and we're expanding it to 10 feet in height. But the concept here is to keep it in the same location, just simply expand it so that it remains in the corner, you can catch a glimpse of that projecting bay there. So the idea is that it tucks away in the corner and not interfere with the reading of the projecting bay at all. It's hard to see in this photograph, but there is a ghost of an old window that exists within the brick patterning here. It's covered with ivy, of course, but this is also above the second floor. It's completely unrelieved, so there's nothing happening. There's no sort of pattern for us to sort of fall into, or for us to that this would distract from or detract from the reading of what's happening above it. Then just to see that second floor in plan, that 3-foot wide opening here, this is the projecting bay and this is the roof terrace, and then expanding that opening just by about a foot, and the access onto the roof terrace there. And now we're just going to take a quick walk around to understand the visibility. So we're at Irving Place and East 19th Street looking northeast, and on the left is an overall view. So this is how you perceive it in the streetscape. And then on the right, we've zoomed in just to provide you with some amount of understanding of what you're seeing, because it's sometimes hard to understand in the overall view because it's so small. So on the left, you can see that stripe extending across. This is the mock-up of the Brise Soleil. So you're getting that sort of leading edge of the Brise Soleil. This would all be executed in that blackened steel, but it's open work, so you're going to get some amount of transparency through it. And then, of course, it's in the context of everything that's happening in the background, this building, the red brick of the building beyond, and behind or beyond the cornice and the chimneys, which act as that sort of frontispiece. Moving a little bit to the east on Irving Place, and looking up at the building just south of East 19th Street, we are going to be looking sort of up through the Brise Soleil. Again, it's open work there. And then a block to the south. So this is really the end of the visibility for the addition. Once you get to this point, if you go any farther to the west, you lose it because of this building in the foreground, and any further to the south, the building at the corner obscures it. So what you're seeing here is some amount of facade of the penthouse, and then the projection of the Brise Soleil. But of course, on the left, this is how you really experience it in the streetscape. Again, all of that very active roofscape, the bulkheads beyond, and the elevations, and the chimney in the foreground. This is a view looking west along East 19th Street. So we're in the distance here. And so what we're going to catch in this view is just the east end of the Brise Soleil as it projects down toward the east. And then just for the sake of transparency, we've included these two views. These are on Irving Place. There's a lot of obstruction that happens on Irving Place right now. There's a sidewalk bridge, so you can't, which you can see here in this view, so you can't get a clear view of the building. There's also this sidewalk enclosure for a friend of a farmer, and we have leaf cover, tree cover. So we expect that there is some amount of a seasonal view that would be perceptible here, but it's going to be similar to what we saw at from the viewpoint to the south, where you get some amount of the brick facade at a distance, and then pick up the line of the Brise Soleil. Here, just a few views of the mock-up as it was constructed, the volume of the addition with the Brise Soleil projecting, and you can see all around it the existing pergola system and the bulkheads as they exist, both the elevator and the stair bulkhead. And then here, finally, just a rendered view of the rooftop view, showing you the really very modest footprint of the new addition and the Brise Soleil wrapping the perimeter. And I think with that, that's the end of our presentation. So any questions you might have, we're happy to answer.
Any questions?
One. So, Aaron, the only potential possible view of this from anywhere on the street is from south on Irving, like seasonally?
No, there is some limited visibility on, this view. If we extend over to Irving, you're going to have some visibility, and it's not going to be limited to seasonal view. But I think, as I mentioned, it's really just in the context of everything that you're seeing in that background. But it is certainly, as you get closer within this block, this is your point of maximum visibility from the distance, and anything within this block is currently affected by the seasonal view. So there is the potential to have something similar to this as you're in that mid block.
I got it. Hi, Aaron. This is Dan Seligman. I've got a couple of questions. One is about kind of shadow. We're talking about visibility, and I know this is not ULURP, so you didn't do a complete, ESA, but
Yeah.
Are there implications for, do you know if there are implications for shadows in the area?
I think I would let maybe Martin answer this. I think that the intent of the Brise Soleil is to provide shade for the unit itself, the penthouse, and I don't think there would be any effects on any of the surrounding property. Do you? Just where I think you're muted.
If you can see it, it might be creating shade.
Yeah, hi, good evening. This is Martin Sosa. I'm the architect on the project. So as far as to your question about any shadows that would be created, I think given that the orientation of the building is facing south, I think any shadow would be really behind the structure, which is basically covered by by the taller building. So I don't think that should be any concern of any shadows imposing on the street or elsewhere.
Okay.
Right, because the sun's going to come over this way, right? And then the adjacent building is just slightly taller than us, which you can see in this. So we're sort of coplanar with what's happening at their rooftop.
So, and I have to say, my second question is, I am sad for that lovely ivy, which I am sure is not gonna survive this.
Oh, I don't know, Martin, isn't it? I think
I have to say
pride.
our client, the owner of the building, has resided here for over 30 years, and he's taken pristine care of this property. I mean, he's been the caretaker, and he has the best of intent to do. I mean, the ivy should be landmarked itself, so there's nothing we're doing that's going to affect the ivy as it's growing from the street level and not from the rooftop. A lot of what you're seeing up on the roof in the photos is actually a hydrangea that's been climbing above the chimney.
Because, yeah,
pergola.
I wondered if it was wisteria at first.
No, that's all ivy that's growing up from the street.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not, this is not.
Plan, and we're just gonna we got a question from the public,
Can I
just make
ask
sure
one
we get that, sure.
Okay, I actually have two more. One is,
And
okay,
you can do
you can
one.
come back to
Can
me.
you do one? Please?
Well, one is, noise implications for your neighbors. As somebody who is living next to a daycare center with drum sets and 2 years of local law 11 work, are there issues about noise? How long is it gonna take? Do you have mitigation?
I'm sorry,
I-
noise, in what respect are you talking about noise?
For construction, Martin.
I mean, I don't see
Yeah.
this generating a lot of noise. I mean, it's very quiet work. I mean, there's screw guns and it's all light gauge construction, so there's not going to be jackhammering or things of that nature, if that's your concern. And it's also restricted to a small area on the roof. Aside from removing some of the existing roof decking, I don't see any concerns with noise. We're not opening up sidewalks or again, jackhammering, which would be a major, the real concern if with noise. So,
Can we get the question from the
Yeah.
public, please, Frank?
So we have two questions.
Okay.
The first from Robert Saray, is the evergreen arbor vitae shrubs on the right of the roof rendering pit. Will there be planters visible? And if so, where are they?
well, the planters are
Yeah.
already, the planters are, if we have a view of the existing photos. Well, just to, if I may, so there are existing planters that run along the the west and south perimeter of the structure. So those are already pre-existing. There were at one point arborvitae that wrapped around the terrace, along with some hornbeams on the Irving Place facade right below the cornice. So I think the intent is to replace what's died back over the years and kind of restore the use of the rooftop.
But the planters will not be visible. They're below the parapet line.
Yeah, the
And-
parapets are about 48 inches from the top of the finished deck. So the planters are only 2 feet above the deck, so they will not be seen.
And then just in terms of plantings, Landmarks does not review landscaping or regulate planting. So while we show it in our renderings to show intent, Landmarks can't make decisions based on the landscaping or the sort of shielding of views, and they can't require obviously someone to maintain their plantings.
And then the second question from Robert Saray is it Boston ivy or English ivy? Are we sure that it's ivy?
I think it's English ivy. I'm not an expert on the type of ivy, but again, the ivy is not going to be affected at all. We're not replacing windows. We're not washing the facade or the brickwork. The only area that might get slightly affected is where we're proposing the new opening, and there's not that much ivy within that area. And it wouldn't be cut back. It would just be pulled back and allowed to regrow and reattach itself.
Are there any more questions from the public? Do our guests have any questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and lovely presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Yes, thanks. Okay, so we will now move on to the second part of our agenda, discussion of the budget request for fiscal year 20.
I think, I don't know what the committee would like to make a motion regarding the first agenda item.
What would we need a motion for?
Not proposing a motion, obviously, it's up to the committee, but
Yeah.
We're in support or?
Well, yeah.
Or at
I'd like to
least a
propose
no
a motion
objection.
saying that we either, should we discuss it first or no objection or
Yeah, we can discuss that. I mean, it's similar, I guess, to the art. If we get the art, they don't need.
do they need something? Yeah, they should
official
go to Landmarks.
support or- Yeah,
And then forward, yeah.
but we could discuss. I mean, we're all fine with it, right? It's.
Do we want to support it or have no objections?
No
I'm not
objection, I think.
support.
No objection.
I kind of.
So I raise a motion to take a vote in support of this project.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so you can say all in favor, or maybe we can I think they just do a hand.
Yeah.
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 All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and,
Done.
and then you should just say anyone against and anyone abstain.
There should probably be there's so few of you, there should probably be a roll call.
Oh, okay, sure,
Okay.
And-
okay,
Paige also, I think,
yeah, she's
Yeah, pages here.
So we'll now take a vote on, a motion of no objection.
Is that what he said? Supports.
yeah, I said in
Of-
support, yeah.
Of support.
and I'm sorry, who, Mark, you second? Anton, you second?
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. And we'll take a vote by roll call. So when your name is called for your vote, you can unmute yourself and answer in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. I'll conduct the vote by roll call and I'll declare the results of the vote. Neil Barclay,
In favor?
Marty Barrett is not with us this evening, but Brandon is not with us this evening. Paige Judge.
She goes on there, she's.
She was
In
there.
favor, in favor,
Thank you. Anton Malner,
In favor.
Raj Nair,
In favor.
Reshma Patel,
In favor.
Anne Sellington,
In favor.
thank you. Letty Simon,
In favor.
thank you. Mark Thompson,
In favor.
thank you. With 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining, and 0 abstaining for cause not entitled, the motion passes.
Right.
Okay, so now who's gonna rate it?
You weren't. Want to help out Martin now?
I'll always edit.
Yeah.
There you go.
We got it. Go
Okay.
I'll buy an ice cream.
on.
So we'll move on to the second part of our agenda. This is discussion of Environment and Parks Committee budget request for fiscal year 2025. We do have visitors this evening from Sutton Place Parks Conservancy. And, we figured that we will let them present now. So, they're here and they're waiting. So we have Chris Collins, who is the Vice President of the Conservancy, and Daniel Patnos, who is the Treasurer.
Good. Want us to just do it from here and speak up? Is that?
Brian, would you like to stand or how would you like to do it?
Yeah, if you could come up to
Because they
the,
won't be
towards the
visible.
microphone.
Okay. I can do that.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for giving us the time tonight. I'm Chris Collins. I serve on the board of Sutton Place Parks Conservancy. And as mentioned, I'm one of the vice president. The Conservancy has not come to Board 6 before, even though we have friends on Board 6, but we're very happy to be here tonight. The Conservancy was incorporated in May of 2015, and it was led by Pat Charlin Taylor, who's currently the president, Jack Barnett, who was the initial president, and the late Flo Kelly, who I know some of you knew. Shortly thereafter, the board was joined by Daniel, who's our treasurer, and Carol Barry, who's our secretary. The organization has grown significantly in recent years, and we recently increased our board to 15 members and have established several new standing committees. We also have a cadre of volunteers who work on all 6 of our parks from 53rd to 58th. They do planting and weeding. We have paid for irrigation systems and security cams. Recently, we hired our first full-time employee as an executive director. Her name is Laura Heckman. Laura used to work at the Riverside Park organization for Dan Garodnick, who all of you guys know. Prior to that, she worked at the Central Park Conservancy. So she understands parks vis-a-vis the Parks Department and she has a degree in botany. So it's a big boost for us and less work for some of our officers like Daniel and Pat. I'll just quickly run through some of our programming that we do in the course of the year. It's all free. We pay for it by raising money, and we also get sponsorships from local businesses. In the summer, in August, we have children's storytelling once a week, the same day of the week. We've had as many as 80 children and their caregivers come for storytelling. The last 2 years, we have done Broadway on the River, which is a concert version. Last year it was South Pacific. This year it was My Fair Lady. I don't know what we're doing next year, but try and reserve tickets far in advance. We had a 28-piece orchestra and more than a dozen singer actors. It was wonderful. We do a holiday sing-along in December. For Halloween, which is coming up, we do an event called a Spooktacular, where it's a children's costume parade, and then a separate parade for people's pets, which is called Strut Your Butt. In April, we do Earth Day, which is heavy on educational materials for children. And then in July, we do Manhattan Henge. That's when the sun lights up on 57th Street. And we just come out and have a party. People bring ladders and you go and try and take fantastic pictures. So the 6 parks that we have are all in relatively good condition, I'm happy to say. And I thank the Parks Department for a lot of that work. But we have one, and it's the dead end or the cul-de-sac, if you want to be fancy, at 55th Street, which in the neighborhood is referred to as the jail yard. There's a picture of it in the materials we brought you today. It attracts some, let me just say, undesirable elements. People who have recently thrown a park bench into the East River from that vantage point. Lots of smoking of cigarettes and weed. The 2 buildings on either side, 25 and 45, are very, very concerned about safety, because there was a break into one of the buildings from the park just about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks. So we're coming to you tonight to ask for the board's support in our request, which we have submitted to the Parks Department for approximately 2.6. Daniel, is it 2.6?
Yes.
About $2.6 million, which in the world of parks capital projects is not a huge number, as you guys know. Sounds like a lot of money to me, but I'm going to ask Daniel to come and give a presentation on the particulars for this capital budget request. And thank you again for having us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Daniel Padnos. The slides and the pages we prepared are actually from a 44-page vision plan that was prepared, and just a little background about how that happened. Our current president, Patricia Charlin Taylor, had the vision had a desire to hire the best landscape architect that she could find, or that we could find, and find a way to take these 6 parks and give them some kind of integrity, so that no matter which one you're in, you feel that you're in a Sutton Place Park. And so she connected with Signe Nielsen, who at the time was president of the Public Design Commission, and she is the founder of Matthews Nielsen Landscape Architects, and discussed it. She then encouraged us to set up an ad hoc vision committee. 15 people got together, and it lasted for almost 2 years, this committee, to follow the parks process and begin to get public input through questionnaires, through guided interviews with a form that volunteers would have on It's My Park Day, to collect data on what people are doing in the park and what they want to do in the parks. And then miraculously, money we had been looking for years. Adam Novak left an endowment in honor of his wife, Branka Novak, but we couldn't find the money. And then we got a call from the City Parks Foundation. We've had this money for 20 years, but we didn't know for the parks to take care of them in perpetuity, but we didn't have anyone to connect to. And so we suddenly, and it had grown, it was $80,000, now it was 200,000. And so when we got the quotation from Matthews Nielsen to do this entire process was gonna cost $110,000, we went to the Parks Foundation and said, we think this is the way to perpetuate the parks. And they agreed. So we only paid the first part to generate this quotation. And then we received this wonderful money that in a sense is ours to spend. I like keeping it with them because if it's with me, it's just gonna be in a CD or well, that's up to 4%, but with them, it doubled, it more than doubled because they invested it. So it's just fine that they keep it and that we have to actually ask and convince them. The first slide that you saw, so we produced this document with a lot of community input. Please note on the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there is a garbage problem. In the first picture, you'll see the Cannon Point North and Cannon Point South, otherwise known as 25 and 45 Settlement Place South, have to stage their garbage in this cul-de-sac before it's picked up. In addition, we have a nice open can in picture number 2, which every time it overflows, we have a rat infestation problem annually in the 2 gardens on the 2 sides of the staircases. In addition, we have these really ugly pavers that we're not allowed to cover or do anything with because of the 9-step concrete stairs. It's handicapped inaccessible. And so what we've done since these pictures is put 10 fiberglass self-watering planters that are very hard to move. And so at least there's some greenery and some summer flowers, but it's just a stopgap until we can really do something. In the second slide are the overall goals that we set with Matthews Nielsen for this vision plan. Enhancing the character of the parks, creating social experiences and creating community. But there is a little bit of a conflict between 3 and 5. Create a welcoming and comfortable space through the reduction of railings, but 5, improve accessibility and safety. So we know that there is going to be some healthy argument about how accessible and how closed this park should be. And we are counting on the Parks Department to have those community meetings and let them duke it out. That's not what we're trying to do here. What we do want to make sure is that the beautiful views of the river, they won't be closed by a line of 1939 style park benches. You'll see soon what we're going to do with that. Then you'll see the rendering, or actually the drawing of what we'd like to do. And this is the only part I'm going to read out loud. The proposed improvements to 55th Street Park are an ADA accessible ramp as the primary entrance, with the elevated park, small seating nooks with benches and space for companion seating line the space. The park opens up into a large paved plaza surrounded by low planter walls. These 18-inch high precast concrete walls allow for lush plantings and lush green buffer between the park and the neighboring buildings. Currently, there are 2 black picket fences that were built as dog runs, one for big runs and dogs, one for small dogs. No one remembers this, but they're still there. The dogs became a nuisance and they had to end that. I'm sure that the buildings like the idea of a buffer, but our buffer would be beautiful and it would be very difficult to cross to do graffiti on their walls, which has been done. So we recognize that safety and buffering is important, but we think this solution, it would be very difficult to traipse through that garden to get to the walls. But it's still enjoyable and nice to look at. Another thing we're going to do while doing this is do a water supply so that we don't have to steal or borrow water from the neighboring buildings every time we want to water a plant. Again, this is the before picture. Yes, today there are 10 planters. The scaffolding has moved from one building to the other building, and some of that front line of benches has been thrown into the river. But other than that, this is what we have. It speaks for itself. And the final picture is a vision of what could be. Matthews Nielsen provided in 2019 a budget which was about 1.5 million. They've recently updated it on the last page. I confess that when I saw that only 900,000 of it was for bricks and mortar and labor and 1.6 million or 7 for contingencies and oversight, I was taken aback, and I even mentioned that to you when we talked on the phone. I was since reminded that this park is over the FDR. That 8-year project called the Promenade, from the Grand Bargain that Julie Menon orchestrated with #1 Sutton Place South, and the 8-year later opening of the park, 2 of those years was New York State Department of Transportation. So it's legitimate. It's a real freeway. It's really covering. They may have restrictions on what hammers you use on those, I don't know. So there's plenty of money in there for that contingency, I think, and also 15% for, we know nothing's gonna happen this year or next, so we have to allow for increased price. We are requesting that in your budget guidance, that you include $2.6 million for this lovely transformation. It will never be called a jail yard again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, if there are any questions here.
Questions? Yes, question. So it's Mark. So the request is that we support your request to Parks for 2.6 million.
That's correct. We have submitted this to the Parks Department already. And what we hear is simply that it's under review. We have also gone to, under the current city council district lines, 55th Street divides Keith from Julie.
Right.
So we've gone to both of those council members as well. So we're just trying to close the loop here and ask for the support of Ward 6.
Any other questions?
Not so much question, but a request that hopefully this goes through because it looks beautiful and common support. I would say I put a word in for the birds and the bees. For the bees, I ask that you think about, being plantings that are good for pollinators.
I'm very glad that you mentioned that because several years ago, a group of students from Cathedral High School did a science project at our 58th Street location to plant specifically milkweed, which is essential to the diet of the migrating monarch butterfly. So that's been in our ethic.
It's called the pollinator garden.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
right. So on the birds, especially being right on the East River, upward facing lights are difficult for migrating birds. It can confuse them.
Yes.
So if you can reduce light pollution by, as you think about design, having kind of downward facing lights that are still providing the safety and security that, the reason you're providing the lighting in the first place, but is a little bit more friendly for.
There were a couple of
our
great
flying
catbirds in the
friendly-
park last week.
Yeah.
At an amateur birder.
Yeah.
We will incorporate that kind of thoughtful
Awesome.
suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
any other questions? So we in support, should we just have a vote?
Is it a reso or is it part of our, as we do our
We could do both if
budget?
we want. We feel strongly about it. We could do a resolution.
Yeah, we
saying
could-
support
we
this
could do
effort,
both.
Yeah,
And then do it in the.
We could do
budget.
both.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I was gonna say, otherwise we can vote to include it in the budget. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's chair of the budget committee.
Vote at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
chair of the budget committee.
Yeah.
Okay. we can do
So we can, so I'll go ahead, I'll make the motion to include in the Parks and Environment and Parks Committee's budget request, improvements and reconstruction work for 55th Street Park.
Okay,
And then-
yes.
Second. Oh,
No. Rajay Battle.
okay.
Oh,
And resolution? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, should we do a vote on this first, then the reso?
I think we can do both, yeah.
Wait, I thought this was.
we do.
I thought this was the
Oh, so
resolution.
we'll do both,
Well,
okay,
both
yeah.
one, this
Yeah.
Well,
resolution,
because for the budget, I mean, isn't it, yeah, and like, isn't that, it's more like.
We
a
can vote in the
ranking
resolution
thing.
when we support this and that we want like to include this in our budget.
Then we just
also
add it
support
on.
Okay, so Jen, I'm gonna reword my, a motion to write a resolution in support of renovations to 55th Street Park and including a request for $2.6 million from the City Parks Department for this work.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
And you want to write it?
Oh, not after that.
She's tough tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm doing the minutes. so
Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
figured
yeah.
like I'm off the hook for writing the resume.
No, it takes working with me, asking you to write it.
You sure, Ann, you don't want to?
I am sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we need someone to second the motion again.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded. We will now take a vote by roll call. When your name is called for your vote, you can unmute yourself and answer in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. I'll conduct the vote by roll call. And I will declare the results of the vote. Neil Barclay.
In favor?
Marty Barrett is not with us. Claire Brennan is not with us. Paige Judge.
In favor.
Anton Mullin.
In favor.
Raj Nair.
In favor.
Reshma Patel.
In favor?
Ann Seligman.
In favor.
Letty Simon.
I'm in favor, but I would just like to clarify the fact that I am on the board of the Sutton Place Parks Conservancy, but I am in favor of this
Wait.
resolution.
Maybe you should.
Yeah,
abstain.
I think you
Yeah.
should.
We,
Huh?
am I permitted to vote, Reshma?
I mean, I think you need to abstain with pause.
Yeah.
because of the board.
I think so
Yeah.
too.
Just so there's no.
Yes, yeah.
There's no question.
So Letty,
So I abstain with cause.
okay. Mark Thompson.
In favor.
So with 7 votes in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining, and 1 abstaining for cause not entitled, the motion passes.
There's no financial thing, but
There is no financial.
but
thing.
still, it's just
All right.
the appearances.
We can work
Thank
out the
you.
resolution.
Yeah.
So far.
All right,
thank
you.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck.
Thanks so much.
It's nice to meet you in person.
Thanks for Southwest University District.
It's all your work. I mean, you guys have organized so well. It's very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a new bank next to you guys.
All right.
Public bank. It's because of last year's president.
All right, then, thank you.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Maybe I should stay.
All right. We will move on to another item in the budget request section.
Please.
And this will be for Alliance for Kips Bay, and we have Sandy McKee, CV6's own Sandy McKee, CEO of Alliance for Kips Bay. And she will tell us a bit more about the project.
Great. Well, that's a very tough project to follow, I must say, because our needs are just so different in a way. We're a little further down the river. We're at 36 to 41st. And we have 2 asks. One is for water in the park. Currently, we open the fire hydrant, manhandle a hose, and try and water the entire 5-block area, which is extremely difficult. We're not really sure the cost of this, but I know it's been in the budget request to restore water to the park. But previously it was to restore water to the fountains. And actually, we really need it for the plants. Last year, we even had the weeds die. It was so dry in the park. So that's our first ask. We've approached our council members, and I think it's probably in the millions of dollars to do this, although we did have water in the park previously before Sandy, and we do have the fire hydrant. So it's still really an undocumented amount. The second ask that we have is to reconstruct the park. We have, unfortunately, right now we have sinkholes, as well as the seawall needs to be repaired. And I did prepare some slides. I don't know if I can share my screen.
Yes, Sandy, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. So East River Esplanade, it's actually heavily used as now it's one of the ways that people get to the ferry, the 34th Street ferry stop. Also, a lot of people use it to get to the international school. It's sort of a nice walk along the waterfront. So we are on the list for a capital project, but and they did come to the board to show this. So we're in the department capital tracker, but without the community support, the project will not receive funding. So we're really hoping that CB6 can add this to the list so that the Parks Department will know how important it is that we do receive this funding and that we maintain the park. In June of 2021, the Parks Department did make a presentation to the committee, to the same committee, and describe the proposed repairs. The substructure of the park has continued to deteriorate since that time with additional sinkholes. And I think you can see a little bit here on the section of how this works. The water is actually taking the soil from underneath the park, and as you know, through tidal action, et cetera, it's pulling that soil away. So they did have several different alternatives for how to solve it, and I'm not sure at this point which one is going ahead. I believe on the tracker, it says that the design is to be finished by December of this year. But even at that point, unless there's support, the project will not go ahead. And so this is that information from the tracker. And it says funding source is mayoral, but it's greater than $10 million. And it has not been procured. So I think anybody who's dealt with any of these projects know that if it hasn't been procured, it's a long way off. So we need a little push to help them get to the next step. This is some of the conditions at the park currently. We're losing someone decided they wanted some granite sets and took them. We have dead trees. That's the FDR in the background. You know, the surface is deteriorating, but without a really solid substructure, it's going to disappear. So we really need that solid base to work from. These are some of the groups. We've had a lot of great participation from the community. I'm not sure if you recognize the gentleman in the middle, but we always have It's My Park. We actually have It's My Park days every 2 weeks, and we clean and weed in the park. We paint. We've had, as I said, a lot of participation from local groups. The men's shelter in this one, a lot of neighborhood children. And so really we're asking for two things: to keep on the budget request, the request for water, and maybe to sort of change that to being water to irrigate and to maintain the park. The fountains would be lovely, but they're sort of icing on the cake at this point. And the other one is to ask for support for repair of the seawall and the underlying structure. Thank you, and any questions, be happy to answer.
Someone from the public?
You want to take from the public first, or?
But no one here had
I
a.
just have one question.
Oh, you had a question. I thought you were pointing at.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sandy, so we don't know the budget for just the irrigation and the reconstruction, right?
We don't know. And I think if we go back, like on the tracker, it says it's greater than 10 million for the reconstruction.
But we don't know what the irrigation is.
We do not. And, you know, we've had sort of off the cuff things of maybe it's 1.2 million, 1.3 million. Without a little bit more investigation, I'm not sure we'll know.
Sure.
But without doing the substrate, you know, reinforcement, I mean, kind of, don't they have to do that anyway, or else it's just gonna all fall into the East River?
Basically, it will eventually. We have sinkholes currently that are covered. Luckily, there's matting covering it, and they do tend to fill them in.
There's an exercise section there with different equipment that people can use, pull-ups, and yeah, that's sinking. We looked at that together.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually been doing it for years.
It's And-
Sam,
It looks like it's getting worse.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah, and that's the same thing someone has said. It's always been like that. And then when you step on it, you think, ooh.
yeah. it's gonna go this way.
Yeah, it's getting deeper.
And Board 8 had a problem where it actually probably
Yeah.
collapsed
Oh my
10,
God.
15 years ago, right?
And I don't know if we still have somewhere in our records, the presentation that they made in June of 2021, because it was really quite interesting. The different proposals they had, and they believe they can do this from below. So they wouldn't actually have to dismantle the park.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, the proposals that they had. And apparently that would be the most cost-effective way to do it. But we do need both. I would say probably the priority is to maintain the structure, because as Anne was saying, without that stable base, we're going to lose the park.
And we have a question from Rupal Kakad.
Yeah, Sandy, I have a really quick clarification question.
Mm.
When you say fountain, are you talking about like a fountain for show, or are you talking more about like water fountain? Because that's the part you mentioned, that's my usual running route. So
Yeah.
I'm always like, I wish there was a water fountain for me to drink, especially like on sunny, warm days. So which water fountain, when you mean fountain, I'm sorry, it's a clarification question.
Actually, I don't know if in this photograph you can see this sort of round object.
Yeah.
It's now become a planter, but it was a fountain. And I know, especially we now have the dog run as part of the park. A fountain and some way to clean the dog run would definitely be utilized if we could bring water to the park. And you're right.
Yeah, so drinking water, right? You mean drinking water?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now we have the fire hydrant, which is not potable water. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And the fountain that is there, we tried to get it repaired before Hurricane Sandy. And the pipes and everything were just so bad, they kind of gave up on it.
Yeah. We now plant things in the middle of it. So it doesn't look too bad, but it definitely is not a fountain with water anymore.
Is there any, looks like we have one question from the public.
Yes, so we have a question from Elisa DeVito.
Hmm.
She says, similar to Alliance for Kips Bay, Friends of Ralph Bunche have been working to get water at Ralph Bunche Park. We were working with Parks on a temporarily a phase 1 above ground irrigation system relying on a hydrant. Unfortunately, we were denied a grassroots grant by the City Parks Fund, but we're working on alternate sources of support. It seems that Ralph Bunche has been slated for a capital project for some time, at which point a water line could be added below ground, but we're looking for an interim solution. We would just need the hydrant to be functioning and ask for support in getting this to happen.
I will reach out to her because we do have a functioning hydrant that we are able to open. It's a very long park, and we're never quite sure how if FDNY really appreciates us utilizing the hydrant. But if that's an option, we certainly would look into that as a short-term solution.
I guess my question to that question is she also asking for funding? Because if so, we'd want her to email the office to include, like,
Yeah.
because we need to have a proposal for that to make it into the budget request, or
Okay.
come to the public meeting. There's a public meeting on the budget request next Tuesday. So if you have additional requests, anyone, a member of the public is welcome to come then and ask for it.
If it's all right, I'm just gonna allow Elisa DeVito to speak.
Okay.
Is that,
Sure.
I'm gonna ask her to speak?
Hi,
Elisa?
and thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hijack the East River, but since there was the talk of water and the hydrants, I figured I'd make our plea again. I know I brought it up at different meetings and discussed it with Neil at length. So, you know, we don't have an actual proposal at this time. We just said we can put one together. We were sort of hoping to get this funding from City Parks and just found out that we were not going to be receiving it. But if that's something that City Parks might be able to help with, certainly would send something in.
And I noticed they said that they collect water in buckets. We also have a rain barrel at Glick too, which is not the best solution, but helps.
Sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand, but I have one more question.
Sure.
So I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now, so apologies if this kind of sounds a little dumb, but the ferry terminal is right there, right? Is it possible to kind of work in conjunction with the ferry terminal to have some sort of like either a drinking water, a small thing for dogs and people or anything like that? Or is that kind of out of the question? It's too difficult or whatever?
Well, right now there is no water at the ferry terminal.
Right. So I'm saying, is it possible to kind of work with them to get that somehow?
The Mark, you got a comment?
Yeah, we long, sorry, I feel like an old man. A long time ago when the ferries were coming in, we talked about trying to get the SEMASA bathrooms out there, and it was just too hard to get water onto the site.
Ah,
they-
got it. Okay. That answered my question. Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
And,
Do we have one more?
yeah, we have another question from Kevin O'Keefe.
Okay.
He's asking if the St. Barton Park pickleball court resurfacing capital need is being addressed in the next fiscal year's budget.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to discuss all of the requests for the upcoming fiscal year, and that's one of the 18 that we have, so that will be discussed and considered, yes.
And sorry, not to, I just wonder what the next step is for Alliance for the East River Esplanade, if there's another process that if we should come to the public meeting, or will there be a vote on this proposal as well?
So what we're gonna recommend now, we'll have a recommendation, and we can decide if we want to also do a resolution, but and then once it gets approved here, it will be in the budget request for this committee, and you're welcome to come next Tuesday, but we're gonna discuss this regardless of whether Alliance for Kips Bay is gonna be at the meeting.
Yeah. That was kind of my question. Should we have a reso for this as we have had for the others?
Yeah. And
Essentially the same.
yeah, I would recommend that we do, given that we are doing it for Sutton Place, just to be consistent. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to be in support of the budget request for this.
I'll second.
Anton, was that you seconding?
Yeah.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded. We'll now take a vote by roll call. When your name is called for your vote, you can unmute yourself and answer in favor, opposed, abstained, or not entitled. I'll conduct the vote by roll call and declare the result of the vote. Neil Bartlett,
In favor?
Paige Judge,
In favor.
Anton Mulner,
In favor.
Raj Nair,
In favor.
Reshma Patel,
In favor.
Anne Seligman,
In favor.
Letty Sonia,
In favor,
Mark Thompson.
In favor?
With 8 votes in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining, and 0 abstaining of the cause or not entitled, the motion passes.
I just want to make a point of information for Ralph Bunch Park. We already have a request in for irrigation system in the budget request.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really
Sandy.
appreciate, yeah.
Sandy, the next time though, when you come and you have the photos of everyone in the community working, can I be one of those photos?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
With
Neil-
the-
As long as
Neil
Grace-
and his son have both helped at our events, and we totally appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
So who's raising this one?
So we have another question from the public, from Christina Ray. She asked, when is the meeting regarding the St. Barton pickleball court requests?
The meeting?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to discuss that here along with all of the requests for the upcoming fiscal year.
can I go back to who's writing the reso for the Gibbs Bay? Can I
I'm writing the minutes for the Belk meeting. I'm not writing any resumes,
You
sorry.
want to do just the same one as?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I just didn't want to, yeah.
Universal replace.
Just change the name.
Yeah,
I know, seriously, right?
yeah. I already drafted the language that we want to put in the request, so I have it, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Christina Ray has her hand raised. I don't know.
Okay,
So I'm
Sure.
allowing Christina to talk. I'm asking her to unmute. You should be able to unmute, Christina.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was working and got to the meeting a little bit late. Thank you for having this. I understand you're going to talk about that at the next meeting amongst yourselves regarding the request to the pickleball courts. Is there a date that you're going to have it where we as the community get to join as well?
No, we're gonna discuss every request that goes through the Parks Committee for the budget request for CB6 is being discussed tonight. And the pickleball courts in St. Martin Park is already on our list from last year. It didn't get funded last year, therefore it remains on our list. Now, next Tuesday, October 10th, there is a public meeting for the budget. And if you would like to come to that and make your case for the pickleball courts, you can do that, and that would be good to have for the record.
October 10th. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Be on CB6's office, or you can do via Zoom as well.
Thank you.
And we have another question from Virginia Croft. She says, I don't know when this will be discussed, but I would like to ask about the court at Vincent Albano Park.
well, we were going to discuss that in the Parks report. All right, so with all of that being said, we can look at the budget request, which we have. We have 18, and unfortunately, I really miss Marty tonight because we had this discussion. If you remember, I talked about, is there a way that we could prioritize or some way to, push certain ones? And he said, just keep all of them on. That's what his experience was as board chair and then as committee chair. And so I agree with Marty's approach.
And we now have one added on though, or two added on?
Well,
We're gonna add two.
We would add these two. We would
Yeah.
add these two.
So it's actually gonna be 3, because it's gonna be the Sutton Place and then 2 parts for the Alliance for Kids Bay.
Oh, right, okay.
So 20.
Oh, we can't do those as,
I think it should be separate requests.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm happy to discuss it, but the way I
No,
see it,
no, I
yeah.
think you're right, and I
Yeah.
think actually the structural stuff should be of a higher priority.
Yeah.
Because again, it doesn't get done here.
Yeah.
We'll fall into the river. On the other hand, if they have to deal with it,
Yeah.
right? Not just for the park, but
And if I
Public
can,
safety.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
endangering the general welfare.
yeah,
Public
and if I
safety.
can, the irrigation thing resolved quickly and easily too. There might be some
right.
simple way to do that and then do a bigger project.
Yeah, and that's why it's separating it.
Yeah,
Helps because
yeah,
sometimes
sure.
it's easier to find that smaller pot of money.
Yeah.
No, I think you're exactly right. Yeah.
Is there anything else we would like to add to budget? Any other requests, any?
I'm actually wondering if there's anything we should take off.
Yeah, so that was my question is, I think you just start off saying you wanted to keep them all on.
I mean, we can
Let's
discuss.
just go through each one of them and say, keep it on, like this we do is take one off if it's like.
Yeah.
Well, for instance.
And I say this because, Ann, on the last one where I talked about if we were going to, drop some and try to prioritize, you said that you didn't think that was a good way to go. And then Marty, he also agreed with
Uh-huh.
you that it's probably best to keep what we have on there. But if historically, if we go line by line and just agree
Well, we can talk
on
about
each
that.
one.
We all-
Well,
Yeah.
I'm starting from the bottom and I see that we have provide or expand, I think this is under. Oh, I'm not even sure this is us, but I'm sorry, I'm looking on my phone, but provide.
It's also on.
I think they just sorted by part.
Yeah.
Okay, well, can you go down to, like, there was the provide or expand New York City Organics Collection Program. Like, I feel like that is really on track.
Is that still on there?
Because we didn't take it off from last year, right? So.
Yeah.
Right.
It was added last minute at a full board meeting by a member who really wanted it on there.
But I feel like it's, you know, in.
Should we move to continuous? What do we lose if we take it off? Or what do we lose if we keep it on? That's what I meant. What do we lose if
Well,
we
we can-
actually keep it on?
And we used to have like 50 things on here, then we cut them way down because some of them are like, what is that, spent done or?
Well, that's why I'm.
Yeah, there are things on there, like when I joined the board, there were things there that were there for years and we went through. Rick, you know, he was always of that same feeling like Marty, that we should keep as many things on. There have been others who disagreed with that. The newest rule by the city is you can't do more than 40 capital in total, but we're below that right now, and parks is the most, but that's just to keep in mind, which I had never seen that before until this year, that they want to limit it.
Yeah, but really it's only if there's something on it that should be taken off because it's been done, like, you know, things that
Right.
after leaving were done, like, or, you know.
Yeah,
whatever it
take
is.
up, yeah.
So,
The only thing I would say is that, you know, there is that request, if you go under continued support, the fountains for GLIP,
Right.
right? Because we thought that was being funded, but it hasn't.
Isn't that expense though, not capital?
Well, we have it under continued support because of that, because they had said that it was gonna be done by the end of this year. And according to the presentation we just had, it hasn't been
It's
even
not
started.
even- Yeah.
So we need to consider
Like,
taking that out, because now we're gonna have a whole new request for irrigation.
Yeah. Should we just go one by one?
sure.
We
Yeah,
can do it pretty quickly too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Neil, you want to give us a dramatic reading for each one? For those of us who can't see that far.
Am I,
Well, doesn't, is
You're
that
supposed to-
got stuff going on for like.
Brian, do you want to read or how do you?
So the first one, which is number one for parks, but for fiscal year 2024 rank, number 5, out of all the requests, is capital improvements in Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza.
so the question is that, did that get, I thought that got funded through the participative budgeting, or somehow they got some money from Keith's office?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
whole, and I think Harvey Epstein too is.
He gave them some money, yeah,
Or at least is going to,
yeah.
so. I mean, I don't think it should go away. It's a block, it's like the only park open in my neighborhood, so I want it to stay a priority. But I'm not sure it needs to be top of the list.
So wasn't this for cameras only, or was it for other stuff?
Well,
It was
it
in the
says cameras
fountain.
only.
No, the fountain, oh,
In the fountain, and that, but that we're taking care of, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And there's like, but they're planning this whole other thing, and didn't they?
Yeah, they got
say
a bunch of
full
money for
board, like,
renovation, but they do not, the security cameras
They did.
have not get money for, because they have no one to watch the security, because the NYPD will not monitor it. So there's that.
It goes to a central location somewhere and nobody looks at it,
No one
but
looks at it.
they have them.
But if they have, but if
But
there's
they
a
have them.
problem,
Yeah,
then somebody.
There's no-
yeah.
So if a crime's going on, they don't see it, but for court purposes or to find the perpetrator,
Right.
they have
They
it.
have.
They have the cameras.
So Sheena Kaufman actually has her hand raised.
Sure.
Okay, I will ask her to unmute.
she doesn't need to raise her hand. Sheena, just jump in. She muted.
She is muted.
Sorry, I keep hitting S to unmute. Yeah.
She was speaking.
There you go.
No, I think I just hit it. I'm sorry. We'll do that one more time.
Hello?
Right, hello.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So for a few of the capital issues that's on this list, I can answer a few. Not all of them, but a few. So I have some updates. So I would like to give you some updates in my report. So maybe some of this can go away, or you can boost them up, boost the rest, some of the ones that are probably priority, on this list. All right, so let me just go through some of this, and then you can go back to your capital, and then you can reassess what you need to reassess on this capital improvement list. So for Vincent Albano, the construction has been awarded, and construction will start on November the 13th. Right, we will break ground on November the 13th for Vincent Albano. Peter Demo, as you know, it's going under a small capital for installation of new water lines and the drinking fountain in the dog run. And the tentative date is to start is October the 23rd. That's the tentative date. We're gonna post signs and then I'll let you know if it happens before or a little bit after the October 23rd. And that's for the Peter Demo park. So you know we got the funding and the capital improvements were done on Mary O'Connor and Tudor Grove playground. Both playgrounds have been reopened back this summer to the public. Murphy's Brothers Playground, because I see Murphy's Brothers is on here. It is going to be including a dog run, a new dog run there, and the public restroom is going to be built on a separate project. But it appears that the funding is there for that. But I'll get you the accurate amount for that, for the public restroom. You know, but it's slated to open fall of 2024, but probably due to some delays with, if anything comes up, I'll let you know if it's been, you know, gonna open up later than the fall of 2024. So get into DAG. So DAG, you're right about the improvements for capital for DAG. I don't believe they have all of the funding, but for the first scope of this project, the contract should have been awarded. I didn't get any feedback as of yet for DAG Hammersco, but it's including the fountains, utilities, and fencing. So far, that's what it's including. We probably didn't have all of the funding, and that's what I think the biggest holdout was, because we didn't get enough funding for DAG. We didn't get enough of it, as it was stated. So St. Barton's Playground, it's supposed to begin next spring. Construction is expected to begin next spring for the St. Barton Playground itself. Now, for Augusta St. Garden, construction inside of the school where they have their school gymnasium is set to begin October the 10th. And so the school, which is two schools in one, the Salt School and PS 40, they'll be taking over the entire playground Monday through Friday from 8 to 3. We had a prior agreement with two of the schools down the block for them to use the playground part for about 2 hours out the day for the toddlers to come and, you know, walk around and play on the little playground equipment. Unfortunately, we have to rescind that offer because the school is going to need the entire schoolyard, and which is the basketball court and the playground. And eventually the basketball court is going to be closed down once they finish the inside of the school, so they can fix the structure on the outside of the school, which is in the same area of the basketball court. And saying that, I'm going to work with the two preschools on finding them a location that the toddlers can go. They're small children. There's not a lot of parks around there. And unfortunately, these two schools, Petersfield and Augusta St. Gardens, both utilized the playground in the park and the turf field the entire day, Monday through Friday. So that's causing some concern with the preschoolers that used to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can get them some space in Stuyvesant for a few hours out the day. I know it's a little bit of a walk, but that's the closest park, Stuyvesant, and it's really nothing there but just a park. But just to get them to run around and play hopscotch or whatever the little toddlers play these days. Now, that would be, as the Levy Playground is a little too far off for them to walk from 20th Street to 23rd Street, way over. So, Stuyvesant is about the closest area for that.
It's interesting.
Friends
uses the street.
right, they closed that down.
Yeah, the park itself, just as a kind of precaution, is that the deed from the family when they gave the park to the city or sold it, whatever, says that there can't be any active uses. It's a passive park. Yeah, but the Play Street might be a better
That
idea.
might,
Right, I don't know. They could probably have like a Play Street, but it's probably going to be very difficult for them to get that because the precinct is right there. So you have to be mindful of that as well. I don't know, but that's just my, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But and it's probably they don't need it the entire day. They probably just need it for 2 hours out the day to close down for those 2 hours. So it won't be an inconvenience, but I don't know, I don't know how that the SAPO permits actually work.
So, so just quickly, the school, they've just cut out the toddlers completely?
Yeah, they actually have the right to keep everyone out because it's a jointly operated facility. So they have an agreement, the city has agreement with DOE for the school kids that go to the school to utilize for their playtime. And that's always been, and that's at every playground that is jointly operated with DOE. So that's just something that, the agreement has always been in play. So the school now, they because they're being restricted, they don't have their inside gym. They have to bring all of the kids outside. So they have to take over their entire area in order to do that. And once the basketball court closed down, it's going to be even tighter, right? And then once we start construction, if their construction is not completed, they will need a SAPO to play in the street. While this playground goes on the capital renovation once it starts. So it's a lot of moving points here for Augusta St. Gordon's. And this playground really needs this capital improvement. It really does need it. They've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, and I wish those kids could have access with the preschools there.
Yeah, I wish they could too, but I'm going to try to work on something for them to be able to utilize Stuyvesant for a little while. The kids need to be able to play. I don't know if they're going to get that SAPO permit to close down the street. I don't know that. And I don't know how long it's going to take for that to come through. So we have to I'm trying to help them because they're toddlers. There's nothing else that we can do but reach out and try to help.
How often does Friends have that?
What Friends?
Friends Seminary has Stuyvesant Square Park on the west side, Rutherford Place. They take the south, this is bizarre, but the southern piece of Rutherford Place between
Well, I'll take a firm outlook of that and see what times, right? Because we have to share the space. There's enough park for two sides of the park, right? So we're going to take a rough look at how we can be able to, meet the needs of everyone, right? We have to be able to share. This is a big space. Stuyvesant has two parts to it. And if they're older kids, we can bring the older kids over probably to the east side while the little babies can go on the west side. So we can just have a overall look. This is probably like a year a year out, year to two. And once we finish all of the capital improvements at Augusta St. Gordon, we'll resume back, you know, having the toddlers come back for those 2 little hours that they need, that they require there. This is only, you know, a short term. It seems long, but it's really a short term, while the school make improvements inside and outside of the school.
It's kind of the half the toddlers like.
So is there, you don't think that's possible at all? I guess like the
Not in
split?
the park itself, but on the street.
No, yeah, look, we're going to use.
But
the map here.
But we don't really want toddlers in the street.
No,
Right.
It's a closed street.
it's closed off. No,
Listen, I know, I'm just saying toddlers, right? They're little baby, and then you have some of these people are very angry in life, right? And they sometimes slide by these barricades and pay it no mind. You know, I see it all the time. They come by, they slide by, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know about toddlers. I would like them to be a little closed in. A little older, bigger adults, they can kind of get away. You know, they move a little faster. Toddlers, you got to grab by the hand, you got to jump in front, you got to do a lot of things, and they leave you real fast. They leave your hand real fast.
That's
right. Yeah.
Don't know.
But on the
Yeah.
other hand, I mean, it just seems like it doesn't have to be all or nothing, that like the bigger kids get space and the little kids.
Well, the
don't.
school has, there's no fighting that thing with the DOE. They have total jurisdiction over the park, and there's nothing that I can do about it. So my thing is to try to help, you know,
So
the school, the other school, because they're private schools.
just to clarify, it's not the school's decision about who uses the space at what times. It's VOA.
Department of Education, that's the school.
Right, but I mean, just the individual school doesn't have. They can't say, we wanna do this for
So-
this amount of time.
So Augusta St. Gordon School, which is PS40 and the Salt School, they've been very kind to allow their neighboring outside schools, their private schools, to be able to utilize the space, right? They've been very, you know, kind, because everyone recognizes that you know, everybody needs to have some space, and they were very kind to share the space. You know, they don't have to share the space because they have this contract with the Parks Department that they have totally jurisdiction while school is in function, and they're gonna utilize the school. You know, they used to have it from 8 to 4. Now they're only gonna use it to 3 o'clock because school lets out at 2:50 or 2:45, one of those times that they you know, I think the last school is leaving at 3. So we're gonna open it back up to the public at 3 o'clock. But this is every school in every 5 boroughs of the New York City Parks and Recreation Department, that they have this policy. And this policy has been in effect for a very long time. DOE, you know, Department of Education, has total jurisdiction over any park that's adjacent to a school.
How small does the Parks Department make t-shirts and pants and hats for toddlers to wear, and then we can just put them in the playground?
I know we find it very, you know, it's very difficult. It wasn't a difficult decision. It wasn't, you know, they fought really long. They tried their best to see if they can work around it, but they couldn't. You know, the building has to, their school has to be, you know, rendered some repairs to it, because we don't want the building to fall down. So you know, it's just a small inconvenience right now until we can be able to so they can make the necessary repairs.
So my question is there something that we should be doing in terms of like making a request of Stuyvesant Square Park? You're saying that they don't allow? Yeah, okay.
Who does it? No.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, I'm gonna work with the other two schools. One, I believe one is for kids with autism and the other one is toddlers. All right. And I'm gonna work with them to see what space and what times that I have available at Stuyvesant Park, which is the closest park. Right? Because Asalevi is just too far off.
Yeah.
Right? It's just too for little toddlers to be walking.
Oh,
Right?
my.
And kids with autism, you have to kind of like, every sound and every little thing can affect them. So we're going to try to see what we can do to help them out, because I know this is a major inconvenience, but I don't think they're going to be granted disabled, but they should try.
Yeah.
All right. They should try.
All right. So we could just leave Sheena unmuted. And we'll keep going.
So the one thing I'd like to point out is all of these items, and thank you, Sheena, so much for the update. And it's great to hear that so many of the things that we want funded are actually going to happen. But since they haven't happened, and since we didn't see it in the capital register from last January,
Okay.
I would want to keep these items here until they're actually funded. Yeah.
Understood.
Okay.
And I know one of them is starting in October, which is technically after we submit this, but it wasn't in the register.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sheena, it's Mark. I have a question. Wasn't it Constance Baker Motley? Didn't they? The elevator was that weird situation, but wasn't the locker room done already?
A locker room for what?
Constance Baker Motley.
Oh, I don't know. I would have to speak with Ken Conyers regarding that regarding what you're asking me. You're saying the locker room?
Yeah, the locker rooms and the elevator. There was a lot of craziness.
Whether the front access, people were very confused about what was going on there.
Yeah. And can you see the note, there's the note there?
Yeah.
Because I think we did have a note on the elevators in there.
Okay. We'll check with Ken Conyers to find out any updates for that.
Yeah, I wasn't talking to you to read it. I meant like us as a group read it.
Yeah.
We have been noted.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sheena, you can check with them. We can also reach out to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is the idea we keep all this stuff on for now.
Yeah, that's
You can always take it.
Yeah, take it off.
Yeah, take it later. I mean, I think the Constance Baker Motley one is one that I feel like they did do some work on it. So I mean, if maybe Brian, maybe Sheena can call, we can call from the office.
Can we ask about that? And then if there has been work done, then we can remove it.
It would be nice to have something.
Yeah. Because I recall somebody from Constance Baker Motley coming about a year ago to our parks meeting. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, we're going to be adding pickleball to take the relief off of St. Barton's for a while. We're going to be adding pickleball to Vincent Albano.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Instead of the basketball court that was previously laid out, we decided to go with the pickleball, which is a great addition to that park. Will be a great addition to that park. We got a lot of support for that. And then it'll take some of the pressure off St. Barton's for a while, because St. Barton's is getting to get very, very testy with the pickleball people. They're not being very nice to each other.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I shouldn't.
So I was just Paige, do you have anything? Anything you'd like to add?
Are you talking to me, Neil?
Yes. Do you have anything you'd like to add, or
To the budget request?
just the overall discussion?
Yes, I'd like to see more bathrooms in public areas like the parks and that.
All right, well, we did discuss that it looks like we will be adding one, I believe, to our
Thank you.
district.
Well, I think it should be more than that, but the thing is that I'm having a lot of technical problems. I have been
Okay.
going in and out of this meeting, so I've only heard portions of it. But the other thing is that more parks should be handicapped accessible. And that is really a priority, I think, that should be put on the parks.
So anytime we make any capital renovations, that is the number one thing that's on it, including any bathrooms that we add or we're renovating. That is the number one thing. We have to have it handicap accessible. So unfortunately, there is no funding for the restroom at Augusta St. Gardens at this present time. So we will not be making any adjustments to that unless we get funding down the line. But
that's not what I was discussing. I was talking about being handicapped available to get into the parks. Not all parks are handicapped accessible.
What once we do capital renovations, we do make it. I don't know which park in District 6 that isn't at this present time, because most of the parks that are in District 6 are equipped.
How about St. Barton's?
St. Gardens.
Not all of it is handicapped. The gardens are not accessible.
The gardens?
I think it's the gardens. There is a section that isn't. I'd like Kevin to talk about that.
Okay,
if he's still on.
So you're talking about the garden in the front of the park. No, there's no funding at this present time to make any renovations to that. But you can get inside the park itself. That's handicap accessible.
Yes, I know that.
But for the garden, there's no funding for that at this present time.
Got it. Well, that's something we could come back to.
Yeah, Kevin,
Sure.
his hand raised.
Yeah. Chime in, Kevin. How are you?
Thank you. Good to see you, Neil and Sheena. Rocking those shades, looking good. The garden, and Paige knows this, we have a pledge, and I say we, it's the St. Martin Park Conservancy has a pledge. Everyone in the Parks Department leadership knows this, to put a ADA accessible ramp from First Avenue into the St. Martin Park Garden. We're very excited about this. We have gotten permission from the powers that be at parks to actually go to an independent contractor if we need to make that ADA accessible ramp work. I don't want to get too far over my skis because we're still solidifying the written agreement on this, but Paige, to address your point directly, there will be an ADA accessible ramp going into the garden.
Yeah.
That money will not have to come from anywhere. The Conservancy this has been donated directly to the Conservancy.
All right, thank you. So we will just say broadly, instead of going line by line, just because of time, we're at 8:50, although this is a lot of fun, but we are at 8:50. It's unprecedented for
Everybody?
no, you said after 9. All right, let's go. We'll wrap this up. So everyone, we all agree that we will keep everything here, and Marty will be happy. We're gonna have to call Marty, see what's going on. Okay, so we are fine with that. So budget will be done, or
So I'm just gonna make
do we need the official?
So yeah, I'm gonna two things. One is to Paige's issue, and we've had this for the sidewalks, but I would recommend that we add something to say that all parks in CB6 and the entire city should be ADA accessible.
But that's not a specific request.
But should we, because that would require funding, should we put something like that funding?
I don't know.
I'll look at the language for what we have, because we've had language for that, making sure that all the sidewalks in the district were ADA accessible.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and so that's one thing we want to put in. We've already said we're gonna put in Sutton Place and the 2 Alliance for Kips Day.
Yes.
And then the other change that I recommend is the Glick Park request, that's continuing support. We remove that because this is now going back into capital with the Alliance for Kips Bay request.
We all agree.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So we can remove that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Take one off of that one.
yes, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, because it's the same request and it's just that we thought it was being funded, so we had it
Yeah.
in a different
Yeah.
area, yeah.
Man,
That's fine.
how great it is to have you here.
Yeah.
You can never leave. Let's see, okay, so I think we're okay with that. We'll keep everything on minus that one.
Yeah,
And then we know with the three request, actually the 4 requests with and I guess like.
with the ADA, yeah.
Okay, so that will wrap up the budget request discussion and we will move on to Sheena Kaufman.
Can I ask one other question about the budget? Do we need to talk about any change in priorities or just leave them as is?
No, we'll just leave it as.
Yeah, and then
is.
the budget committee will discuss priorities overall from that.
Yeah,
Just so we're clear, since we're the ones that have to update this thing, what is coming off? What is being removed?
Oh, so there is under continuing support, there is a line item for irrigation in Glick Park. That's coming up.
Okay, so we're removing that.
Yeah.
In its place are going to be
Two
two.
capital requests, which I had sent an email this afternoon with the language for that. What I will send language for is the Sutton Place.
All right.
alright. So we will go to our parks report.
Just gave.
All right, who's it? Shana, you've already done so.
So you-
I already did it already.
All right,
Yeah.
any questions from the public?
Yeah, so we have several questions.
Okay.
Including from Mr. Daniel Moore.
Okay,
First, he says, we were also told we would talk about pickleball noise at Vincent Albano Junior Playground. This park backs up against apartments and is extremely loud inside our apartment.
yes, so if there are any questions, the committee is aware that there were questions from the public about the pickleball court that is going to be put in there. So, yeah, we can ask Sheena about that.
So I did some sound check for the area at Vincent Albano and I didn't find it to be loud at all. It is a sport, right? And it's played during, park open hours. And it's a park like any other park. And I didn't find it to be, I watched the people play. I listened to the ball and it just didn't appear to be that loud. And I'm sure that the residents there have some concerns about it, but the overall, we got a more abundance of people wanting the sports that do live in the area. And they are in support of it because they like the sport and they said the sport is, brings them joy and they live in the area. It's a very hard thing to, we can't pull a wall around it, and to be honest, if you add basketball, you're going to get more than your handful of trouble. More than you have, you're going to get people playing basketball all times of night, bouncing the ball, yelling, screaming, music and all of the things that basketball comes with, tournaments and things like that. Pickleball, it's open during the hours. It brings Vincent Albano, it brings such happiness to the area, right? From prior instances that we had at Vincent Albano. Albano has been a very, very hard playground to manage with all of the activities that happened there. But once they brought the pickleball there, it kind of lifted up a little bit. So it was kind of nice to see people in the park playing and enjoying the park for a change, besides people doing the wrong thing in the park.
What are the open hours, Sheena? Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
All playgrounds in the park, in every park, are open from 6 a.m. To 6 p.m. during the the low peak season, and during the peak season is 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Of course, we don't get to every park at 6 a.m., but most of the parks we open by 7 o'clock because we don't start work until 6 o'clock. All right. So the pickleball people are there like 7-ish to 8-ish. Maybe on the weekends they're there earlier. They're a little early, but
I see.
it's a different change in that playground since when I began at this park, in this district. The type of things that were happening, and they're not happening on a higher scale as they used to. And I think it's because of the change of people coming there and playing pickleball.
Now, do we have other questions
Yeah,
from the public? Okay.
So I have a question though.
Sure.
So in Vincent Albano, what was supposed to be a basketball court has gotten changed to pickleball courts now?
Yes.
And I just to kind of think further ahead, like there is a huge pickleball craze right now, but what happens if that goes away? Because it's so popular, I almost feel like it's a bad that it could go down.
Well, we can always make it. We can always turn it to tennis. Right.
Okay. So I guess that's
right. So we have a lot of basketball courts around here, and I felt that would do it an undue service to add another basketball court to this area where pickleball is needed, because we already shrunk in the pickleball space at St. Barton's when we put the field there. So now that now we have everybody at St. Barton's
court, there aren't enough tennis courts. So if the demand
if it don't work out, tennis will make it work.
Yeah.
So Mr. Ward is also asking, he's saying, we've submitted decibel noise readings from this park, Albano that is, and they're above the levels allowed by New York City noise ordinance.
I'd love to know what those noise ordinances are. And I gotta say, if I lived in an apartment there and at 7 a.m. on Saturday or 6 a.m. on Saturday, I'm hearing pickleball outside, I would not be thrilled. I mean, construction can't start until 8 a.m. Maybe this shouldn't start.
So I think a question then, construction is going to start on the 13th, the 12th? Yeah. Yeah, right around the corner. So maybe the question for the people of the public, if they have this, and do they have any like recourse? Is there any? That's probably a bigger question, because
so what can happen? It hasn't started yet, right? Once there is noise, there'll be noise complaints. It would go into the city's noise database. And if there are lots of complaints, something can be done about it to what was suggested, which is you don't start to play pickleball until 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., whatever time people feel. And maybe there might be people with kids who go to sleep at before 9 p.m. And so maybe they have to.
Well, the 9 p.m. is only doing it in the summer hours. All right. Other than that, the park closes at 6 p.m. during the winter hours, which is starting November the 1st.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, this is sufficient for the noise, it complains, yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
You're right. So, and we can adjust that if that can be, those things can be adjusted.
yeah, okay, so it's going to be in the park, pickleball courts are there, but there are ways that the noise can be mitigated.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
That is bullshit.
Who got, was that from the public, Brian?
Yes.
Was that you?
I think that's Phyllis Langley.
Hi, Phyllis.
Did you like to allow them to speak?
Sure. Hi, Phyllis.
Oh. Hello.
Yeah, I don't know if you contributed a one word for us.
What are you asking me?
No, so someone had just used the word that usually isn't used here, and so I don't know. We didn't know which panelist it was, but sorry. Yeah, we're not asking anything. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Did you have a comment? Someone made a comment, and we wanted to see if they wanted to elaborate on that comment. But if no one has, we're fine.
No one made the comment.
Page then? It was either.
Well, we're at 9:02, so we're not going to be detectives. We'll find out.
So
That's it, right? From the public, that's it?
No, we have several more. So
All right.
Heather Wolcott, she says, for the Vincent Albano courts, what measures are being taken to buffer the sound for neighboring buildings? So along the same line.
So I think that's, I'm sorry, Sheena? Yeah, you're good.
There's no measures but for the sound because we didn't find it to be a problem at this present time.
So it still ultimately comes down to how to mitigate the noise and like the periods.
Yeah, like timing.
I have a question actually, and Sheena, you might be able to answer this. When the noise from pickleball, is it the ball hitting or is it like people like on a basketball court screaming?
Well, so you're trying to compare that to basketball?
No,
What's the noise? I didn't read the New York Times article about it, but there was a very big New York Times artitle.
Yes, is the ball hitting?
I guess they're hitting the ball with the paddle that they use,
That's the issue. It's not like people
That's
yelling.
what
right, whatever type of racket that they're using, right?
Okay.
As opposed to net, which is like badminton or tennis.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct, right.
Periodic, like
Yeah.
it's.
But it isn't people screaming and stuff.
So
No, it's not people screaming, no.
And if we are looking to mitigate this, I know Kevin O'Keefe, he has said at St. Barton that it usually doesn't really get packed until around 9 or 10.
In the morning.
Yeah, so maybe at least, that's reasonable. On
That's
a
something we
weekend.
could look at. That's something we could look into as well.
Okay.
Once
So-
it's installed and once we have it, but when we make these signs, we have to make them for everyone. We just don't make it just for one particular area. All right, so we can look into that. That sounds reasonable. That's a reasonable thing, but we would like to do.
Mr. Worth is also asking, he says originally the design had been for basketball court and playground. Can this be changed without review?
Yes, they changed it. It's already started. It's already in effect.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Is there any?
No, it was already already changed.
But there is the court at Bellevue South.
South, that's brand new.
Do they have 2 full courts or is it 1 full court?
It's
They
one.
have 2. Right?
They have 2. Yeah, they have 2.
Two
And
full
we have basketball at St. Barton's.
Yeah. Yeah, Bellevue South is right there. Yeah.
And,
so
and St. Barton's is there as well.
Yeah, St. Barton has the full court and then they also have the half court to the
Yes.
side. Where the little guys play, so, yeah.
It's like the big dog running the little dog.
Exactly. Okay, well, I think, Parks is open to, get everyone in the community involved and keep everyone in mind. More questions?
Virginia Cross says it would make a huge difference, if you could stop the park from opening until 8. The pickleballers are starting at 7 and they're playing music and shouting.
Okay, now, so that right there, I think that would warrant, the parks to look into that based upon what the feedback is from the community here, because if 7 or 8, and I think Ann said this, 7 or 8 on a Saturday can be tough for people. So if we did push it up, there's something with parks.
The music and stuff is not coming from the people that's playing pickleball. It's coming from the people that's sitting in the playground area doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So we do have our PEP unit, monitoring this area. This area has been a problem for a very long time. So it's a hard, once we issue tickets, we go there and speak to the constituent. We just can't, they don't stay in the park. Our PEP officers don't stay in the park. They have to rotate around. So once we leave, the people that come back, they come back and, we have to constantly send them back and forth to, to monitor the situation. It's not an easy thing. And I thought, I still think that the pickleball made a huge improvement on what was there prior, all the stuff that was happening prior.
Yeah, maybe it's heavier traffic, more people coming in and out that may help.
Yeah.
Something else, Q&A, public?
Yeah, so Christina Ray, says, I understand you're breaking ground at Albano on November 14th. When can we as the public ask questions and advocate for input?
For what?
Sheena, sorry.
I didn't hear the last part.
Sure. So Christina Ray says, I understand you're breaking ground at Albano on November 14th. When can we, as the public, ask questions and advocate for input?
Advocate for what?
Input.
Input?
Or have
The design is already in place. We can't change the design. The contract has already been awarded.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Hi, is it Sheena? Am I able to ask a question?
Sure, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for your time. I appreciate all the stuff that you guys are doing. And I spoke to somebody that was there at Albano, and I appreciate the fact that you're saying a lot of people play pickleball and it's gotten a lot better there. I guess I understand that there's going to be one official pickleball court and an unofficial one, but I was wondering if I don't see pickleball going away anytime soon. If anything, it's going to get to be bigger of a deal amongst New Yorkers. And as a 57-year-old woman who has a torn ACL, it's gotten me out of my house and many, many other people, both young and old, from, teens up into their 80s. And as far as having a second court, my request was to have a second court because there's so many people that would love to play there. And as myself, I'm in the healthcare profession. I've actually seen people being homeless people there. And I've actually thought about getting a group of people to see if some of these homeless people want to play. Some of them catch the balls for us and bringing them back. And I'm like, let them get involved. And I would just see even more positivity if there were two courts there. There's more than enough room. And that's a suggestion that I just have. And it's not going anywhere pickleball. And I appreciate positivity towards it. Can get loud. So I do understand that.
We also still have handballs going to be there. So we have to also be mindful of the handball. We're not getting rid of the handball court. So the little handball wall. So I don't know if it can be done at this point. We were just happy to get the pickleball there from all of the people that requested it and wrote letters and in favor of this happening.
Yeah,
I can't answer that right now. I'm not in the position to answer that right now. I will look into it, but at this present time, we're just still with that one court.
And Christina.
Last question.
Sure, last one, please.
Last one. I appreciate it very much. And I understand you don't want to get rid of handball, but handball will always be there. And we always share, like we share at St. Martin's. We would still always share and give away to handball players as well as tennis players. Sorry, that's it.
Thank you. Do we have any more?
Yes. So Robert Saray says, if I remember correctly, there was supposed to be some Quonset cherry trees planted at Ralph Bunche Park. What happened? Supposed to be in April, if I remember correctly.
Sheena, do you?
I don't know of that. He can email me. If you give him my email, just tell him email me, and then I'll look into it. But I have no knowledge of that.
Yeah, I know Rob. So I can give him Sheena's email.
I don't remember anything talking about Sheena.
Yeah. So there was a request at Ralph Bunche for some trees, and it looks like date wise it's moved around. So it's been tough for them. You have friends of Ralph Bunche, they go in, they do a lot of work there.
They do. Yes, they do.
And people have told me that walking through the park, that it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
No, it does.
It definitely.
There you go. And that's because of them.
Yeah.
And Rob is a part of that, Elisa DeVito.
Yeah.
So they're to be
That's what
commended.
I was wondering if Lisa is still on the call.
Is there any other from the public?
Yeah, so Virginia Croft, is wondering if she has her hand raised and she's wondering if she could speak.
We'll just have to take it from the chat, just because of time wise, we're at 9:12.
And Elisa DeVito has a question for Sheena on rat mitigation.
Okay, so, yeah, so with that one, I can talk to Sheena
Okay.
about that one. Yeah.
And Heather Wolpat says perhaps we could revisit the design, this is for Albano, to see if noise barriers can be put up. And she also mentioned signs, as we discussed, that at pickleball is to inspire the ball.
Well, I think, Sheena, what do you think? Is that possible, or is that?
That I think.
Pickleball is not official there yet, so I can't put any signs. Pickleball is not official at any site yet, besides Central Park. It's not official at any site. That's why we don't have any signs up. And we have to make sure that the signs are all related. Once we do the park over, then the signs will be put up.
Right, I think that's it, right? And we
There's just
can,
one more from Robert Saray.
sure, last one.
So he's asking, what the migrant prices, is park budget being cut?
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
Everyone has to cut. I'm looking at it on the news, like every city agency has to cut back 5%, and we don't know what part of that 5% is going to be affected. At this present time, we cannot buy we can't buy a bar of soap right now.
Yeah, stay tuned, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
November budget update, and you'll see.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. Parks report. That's right. Sheena's fantastic.
For hanging out so late.
Yeah, Sheena,
Neil, call
you.
me. Neil, call me tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I got a little bit of sheriff's report.
Yep.
It's kind of long. No, I'm joking. I'm an hour long. Yeah, I'm going to waive that. I would just, look, I gotta put this one in, right? Want to thank everyone, Stuyvesant Square Park Neighborhood Association, Stuyvesant Park Gardeners, Kips Bay Alliance, St. Barton Conservancy, Friends of Ralph Bunch Park, Friends of Dak Hammarskjöld Plaza, the Sutton Place Parks Conservancy. That's it.
Yay!
With motion, there you go.
I have
We don't need.
all new business. Just give me 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know we had discussed this in the past, and I don't know where it's gone, but we talked about UN Park. And it had been open prior to the
Yes.
COVID. And is anything happening? Does anybody know?
Nothing. They're terrible neighbors. They will never open it again.
So is that?
It was prior to 9/11, right? Not prior to COVID.
Prior to
But
Yeah.
so just a question on that, because it has come up quite frequently. Is that something you'd like to take the lead?
And so I am happy to work with you on it.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
But I mean, my experience, because this is something I have literally, every time the UN comes and asks the community board for something, which they do every so often, not a lot, I say, great, how about opening the park up again? And they say, no, it's too dangerous.
So can you? No, but can you two look into that? Because perhaps there's something, I'm
happy to,
Yeah, just see
I
what
don't
happens.
even know, like, we don't even have a contact there.
Maybe something
Like,
changes.
because unlike every other organization in our community district, they do not communicate with us.
So
Well,
we
we
don't
can-
have a contact if you want. Okay,
Yeah,
I
we
can,
do.
I can try to find a contact.
Board member who was the.
I gotta go catch my bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what we will do.
But
If you two can lead that,
I will kind of, because I live so close to when lots
Yeah,
of
me
people who
too,
work
yeah.
there, right, live
They
in my
pass
building,
by,
I
right?
can see like,
Excuse me, do you have
in the
contact?
elevator, I'll be
Yes,
like.
I need your, there you go.
Right, I will stalk my neighbors, I will stalk my
Ask the
neighbors.
security people when you see them, well, excuse me, do you know who must have contact?
Yeah, there has to
Right.
be, and you know who did, there was a community liaison, this, when we
So
were
that-
talking about the
Wait,
casino.
Do you want to adjourn?
Yeah, let's
Yes,
adjourn,
yeah.
you know,
We can
do I have the motion? I
To
think-
adjourn.
All right,
Second.
Second, good meeting.
great meeting.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, thank you.
I thought the UN had been, they had also spoken out against the proposed casino thing,
I
right?
think they
And
did.
I
But
I wanna
the
like
last
Google the
time-
article and find out.